more resources, more human intellect that will make the country a better place. But when you compare it with other those countries, you'll be very fake, Mr. C. Thank you very much. I'm back to my country. I will keep fighting to make it a better country.
Okay, we'll hope so, that the country gets better, and then pretty soon, because Nigerians are already facing so many challenges. The hardship in the country, I mean, you can't talk about it. You know, the Naira is already having a free fall against the dollar. And it's difficult if you're a business person. Well, we'll start first off with the issue of the free fall of the Naira. There's been moved by the federal government to help stabilize the currency. I mean, sometime in August, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited secured a $3 billion emergency crude repayment loan from the African Export-Import Bank, also known as Afrexim, in a bid to stabilize the Naira, which at the time was exchanging against the dollar about 451 Naira to about 785 Naira. That was just in August. But right now, we understand that the federal government is also expecting inflows of about $10 billion as well to help stabilize the Naira. This was according to the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Odun, who was speaking at the 29th Nigerian Economic Summit in Abuja on Monday. What do you make of these moves by the government to stabilize the Naira, despite first of the move in August, not from all indications yielding results? Can this be sustainable, you think?
Mr. C, I have very restrained optimism. Usually I'm a very optimistic person, but for some reason lately, when it comes to the foreign exchange of our country, my optimism becomes a little bit restrained. As I was coming out from the international airport on arrival a few days ago, Mr. C, my attention was swamped by about 300 people seeking to know if I have foreign exchange to change. I was in shock. Yes, I have just left the country a few days ago, but I didn't know it was getting this bad. And they were offering ridiculous amounts of money in Naira as against the dollar content. Yeah, Mr. C, let us not forget that a few months ago, the NNPCL, yes, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, it secured about $3 billion, which was then called emergency crude repayment loan from the African Bank, the African Export-Import Bank. And this was done by the former acting CBN governor just a few months ago. They thought this was going to largely improve the liquidity of the foreign exchange market. But Mr. C, let me give you the figures. When you see the figures, you'll be so shocked. You will now begin to understand why the country went ahead to ask for more $10 billion, which is currently being expected from international borrowers to cushion the very negative effects of the dollar against the naira. Mr. C, when the government was leading and Tinubu took over, we did not know that the volume of the backlog of foreign exchange requirements needed by the country was enormous, extremely enormous. A small investigation we did a few weeks ago revealed, Mr. C, that airlines alone are owed a backlog of over $11 billion. Airlines alone. Now don't forget that these airlines that operated in Nigeria, they were selling their tickets in Naira. Most of them at the time insisted on selling their tickets in foreign exchange. And don't also forget, Mr. C, that we have so many international companies. In fact, almost all the oil companies in the country are foreign owned, even when they have their Nigerian content. They are all foreign owned. And those international manufacturing companies here also require enormous volume of this foreign exchange. You see, we have also a very disturbing arrangement. We are told that a chunk of foreign businesses in Nigeria are all consultants, and they require their monies in foreign exchange. The consultants are to federal, state, and sometimes even local governments. We are told of a few local governments in the north that involve these foreign consultants for their projects. Mr. C, it is very disturbing. I was in business class in Qatar Airlines as I traveled a few weeks ago, Mr. C. The whole of the business class is filled by government officials. Government officials. They occupied almost every seat in the business class, including the first class. Mr. C, the level of travels by our government office holders, public office holders, is very disturbing. If you try to look at the head itself, the president himself, how many times have he traveled out of this country for just less than 5 months of being inaugurated? As I talk to you now, the vice president is out of the country with a retinue of aides and accomplices. It is very disturbing, Mr. C. Our governors are always out of the country. No governor in 1 month do not stay out of the country within that same month. Go and check the records. If you want to have any transaction in any ministry today, the story you will hear is that the minister travels. They are all traveling around the world, putting pressure on the foreign exchange earnings of the country.
Okay.
That is the very problem, Mr. Free.
Yeah.
And it is very enormous.
Absolutely enormous and disturbing, just like you've rightly pointed out. I mean, a former deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Professor Kingsley Moalo, has said the naira can only be strong again if Nigeria becomes an export-driven economy. I also hosted an economist, one Dr. Nnamdi Nweze, a couple of days ago, where he blamed this free fall of the naira to the federal government move when the president came on board to float the currency. And he said, hey, come, that cannot be sustainable because Nigeria is, duly dependent on imports. Can we trust this government to stabilize the naira in spite of not being an export-driven economy, our own economy?
Well, Mr. C, I have told you earlier that when it comes to the foreign exchange of my country, my optimism remains very restrained. I was shocked when I found out that the businesses, the actual businesses of imports into the country that utilized the percentage of our foreign exchange earnings was only about 15%. 15%, Mr. C. I was also shocked that over 28% were for school fees. 28% of the drive for foreign exchange is for school fees. Mr. C, whenever I listen to some of our intellectuals, especially those that have held public offices and created no impact, I don't seem to take them into too much confidence. Mr. C, Mr. Moalo was deputy governor in Central Bank. During his tenure, we didn't see any much improvement on the financial index of naira as against the dollar. We didn't see much difference. He was part of that governing council. So the idea of having our intellectuals come to give us information on what we are seeing to be a different issue, it does not suffice for us. I am also very concerned, Mr. C, that the level of financial transactions today, especially the corruption part of it, where monies exchange hands corruptly, whether it is in the courts, because if you don't have money today, Mr. C, you cannot get good judgment in our courts. If you look at the exchanges that go on in those transactions, they are in foreign exchange. They are in dollars, they are in pounds, and they are also in euro. So these are the things that put unnecessary pressure on the economy. So you see that our businesses only have less than 20%. Less than 20% of the financial transactions within the forex index is for businesses. The rest are not properly adduced to grow the economy. That is where the problem is necessary, and that is what we have to look at critically.
We'll move away from that story. Let's get down to home. Let's get down to Abia State, with the government stating that it's moved to recover government lands and assets, and to enforce those will be pretty soon. Well, the state government stated this through the Commissioner for Information and Culture, Prince Kanu. Well, he said this while briefing newsmen at the government house in Umuahia after Monday's Executive Council meeting presided over by the Governor, Alex Oti. Well, what do you make of this? You recall that when the governor came on board, he did set up a panel of inquiry into the recovery of assets, properties, and funds belonging to the state government. Can you speak on this?
Thank you very much.
Yes.
My attention was called to it even while I was outside the country. My staff gave me a complete lowdown of what the intent and intentions of government is in that regard. I mean the Abia state government. Mr. C, do not forget that public office holders, especially the politicians among them, they have always shown impunity in handling public property, including even disbursement of cash and management of our assets. When the country over, I'm not talking about states alone. If you look at what happened at the federal level, even at the FCC and local government, any recovery that is properly instrumented towards ensuring that it serves as a deterrent is what we are going to look at. It is not only at the state. You see what the Minister for FCC, Wilson Wike, he has instituted a very high-powered recovery team on both land and assets of government in FCC. Look at also Imo State, when the Kopu Zodima took over from Rochas Okocha, and also Bauchi with Bello there. Look at what is also happening in Kano. The Kano state government have commenced an effective recovery of government assets and properties being held by outgoing political office holders. That has always been the case in the So Abia is not supposed to be different. So I encourage the state government to ensure that all recoveries are made from former public office holders, especially if those property and assets were taken illegally from the government. However, Mr. C, let me give you another area of my concern. I have said this over and over, and let me repeat it. I am not comfortable by any stretch of imagination, either by an act of commission or mission, to limit the investigation to Ibazu's government. It is unfair, it is irrational, it's unsensible, Mr. Singh. We must have to look into the affairs of Abia State from 1999 to date. It is not going to be just Ibazu's government. Ibazu's government was just for 8 years, 8 previous years. Before then, the rot had commenced, enormous rot in the state. And we must have to ensure that in making a comprehensive recovery, it must not be limited to an Ibazu government. It must go all the way backwards to when the loot started, and we should cover everything that belongs to the state, irrespective of who is holding them.
Well, is the government, I mean, for anyone who would probably think so, not carrying so much all at the same time, on the other side trying to ensure that the people get the dividends of democracy and get to enjoy it, and then on the other hand trying to recover these properties? Is it going to be distracting to the government? And that's the one side. The other side is the injunction that is hanging over the neck of the panel, because we understand, we did talk about it on this platform, the immediate past governor did secure an injunction against his administration being probed by the panel. What can you say about this?
Well, honestly speaking, Mr. C, I have always been an advocate of recovery of assets. But I have always insisted also that it must be done within the framework of the legal implications. If Ibazu have obtained a legitimate order of court seeking to stop investigation or even recovery of any of the purported government properties in possession of any of himself or his cronies, if there are any such order of court, I would recommend that the government should take the path of integrity, respect of rule of law, and go back to seek a redress on appeal. The laws are very clear. We must have to obey substantive court orders. I'm not one of those who think that in order to do the right thing, you have to disobey court order. No, I have always insisted, Mr. C, that in the process of our doing what is right, we must do it within the ambit of the law. And if the law says, hold a minute, let us look into his complaints before you go ahead, you have a choice. It's either you hold a minute or you appeal against the order. Disobedience of court orders and court judgments, Mr. C, is a sign of irresponsibility. It's a corruption. It's a form of corruption itself. It's more corrupt even than financial corruption. Disobedience to orders of court, I'm not for. So I am insisting that the state government should ensure through legitimate means that all illegally received or collected instruments, both landed matters, both assets, both cash that went into the hands of political gladiators, will come back to the state for the benefit of the commonwealth of the people. But it must be done with the rule of law.
Well, the Honorable Commissioner did not just stop at the enforcement of these properties and funds illegally collected or received by, members of personnel of the immediate past administration. He also touched on the government planning to enforce the ban on street trading in the commercial nerve center of the state, which is a ban in other cities as well. He said the ban will elongate the life of the newly constructed roads and ease traffic. Is this a good move? Ban on street trading in a ban in other cities in the state, you think?
Of course, it's a good move, Mr. C. Street trading is a sign of primitivity. It's a sign of lack of development. It's a very backward approach to commerce. I am not one of those who believes that we should allow our boys to be on the streets selling goods. It Mr. C, let us look at it very critically. You can't just jump a gun without what we call perfect. You must have to do it properly. Those who are trading on the streets, are they happy themselves? Are they happy that they are on the streets trading? They are not happy. That's the truth, Mr. P. The fact remains today that most of these people, most of our citizens that are on the streets trading, are doing that out of a lack of sort. That is why I have insisted. If you want to stop street trading, for example, you must have to find a way to create alternatives. If you are saying that people should not urinate in public places, in the same vein, we should provide public toilets. People are urinating where there are no public toilets. So if there are public toilets, people will not urinate in public places. Let us go for the same level of proposals we have kept saying. Artisanship. Mr. C, let me give you one strong information. Go and check it out. If you go to our communities today, go to our villages, go to even any areas in town, there is a dearth, there is absolute lack of professionals, especially artisan professionals. You cannot find good physicians today. You can't find good carpenters, bricklayers. You cannot find it even in the area of allied building professionals, like the ones that's called POP designs and installations and, painters. Even scripters. You don't find them. And these areas are in high demand. Mr. C, today, you can find an unemployed electrical engineer, but you cannot find an unemployed electrician. Why is it that way? Because the electrician is a real artisan, is a real workman. There is lack of them. But then our emphasis has always been in the high level of education, not knowing where the world is going to today. The world is going to skills. Skills is what is ruling the world today. So we should encourage them to leave the streets, but let us show them where to go to, where they leave the streets. You don't pull them out of the streets and don't show them the alternative. That is where I have disagreed with government.
Okay, we'll be going for a break shortly, but let's have you talk on this story. Still in Abia State, we did talk about this last week, and it has to do with the former Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He's a Board of Trustee member of the opposition now in the state, People's Democratic Party, Senator Adolphus Nwagwara. Now, recently the state government did flag off the Port Harcourt Road in Aba, and Abians, a lot of them were pretty excited. He was one of them, and he made some political statement, if you like, that has not gone down well with his party, the People's Democratic Party, to the extent that, he said the governor, Dr. Alex Oti, merely flagging off that project has secured a second term in office. And the PDP went for the jugular. Now, we understand disciplinary actions might be taken against him. The party would wish you attempted to become the governor, or made a move to become the governor of Abia State, the All Progressives Grand Alliance. And indeed, incumbent national vice chairman of the party, South, in the person of Reverend Augustine Ehemire. Well, he has jumped on the fray where he did say the PDP should hide its face in shame. And he said they should leave Nwagwara alone. And then he made some comments almost affirming what Senator Adolphus Nwagwara has said. I'm sure you might have seen those comments. What do you make about them? Coming from a member also of the opposition All Progressives Grand Alliance, ABGA?
Thank you, Mr. C. I'm no more in any party. I don't belong to ABGA. I don't belong to PDP. And I don't belong to APC either. So right now, Mr. C, I'm not in any political party. What I'm doing right now is bringing value and succor to those who ordinarily cannot help themselves. That is what I have resigned to do. That is what I'm doing right now. So I can comment on what is happening, but not as a member of ABGA. No, I'm not. I'm no more a member of ABGA. I'm now a private citizen trying to contribute to the welfare of my people. Yes, I agree absolutely with Nwagwara. Nwagwara spoke the mind of so many people. Nwagwara was trying to elucidate what most Abians, especially those who have consistently suffered in Aba, what PDP in all these years could not do. In less than 4 months of his existence, what the governor of Abia State have done is to flag off the completion of Port Harcourt Road. It has been in the mind of so many people, and everybody whom I spoke to is happy with the government. I am also happy with the government. You will remember that I have commended the state government very generously in this area, and I said this is what we expect government to be. However, Mr. C, you must have to juxtapose facts the way they are. If we are all against PDP for what they did yesterday, we must not repeat the mistakes of PDP. Because those who are now supporting the party and saying good things about the party, especially the Labour Party and the government for Lesotho, they will be the same people who will criticize you tomorrow. So we are not going to allow a situation where we, while praising Lesotho and his government, forget to advise him, please do what is right. Some of the critics and criticisms we saw happening across the board of the opposition is because the government of Abia State, as much as they're trying, starting from a good perspective, must have to do what is right. Why am I saying this, Mr. C? There must be some level of transparency. We are finding that lacking right now in Labour Party's government. This was what we criticized PDP. This is what we criticized previous government. That there must be transparency. If you are building a flyover and you don't tell us this is the companies that bidded for it, these are the amounts of money that have been bidded, and this is whom we have awarded it to, and this is the amount for which it has been awarded to. If you do not do that, then you are shrouding your activities in secrecy, and secrecy is what breeds corruption. That's what breeds disaffection. In fact, that's what breeds suspicion. And when people begin to suspect you, all kinds of rumors will come up, and then allegations will come up with those rumors. This government should not repeat the mistakes of PDP. They should be transparent.
Open Parliament, midweek edition. Interpol Systems Consultant and Security Expert Chikwe Udensi, a guest this morning. My name is Mr. Sin. Don't forget you can follow the program. It's been streamed live on ABN Radio and TV. When we return, we'll be looking at the group known as the Indigenous People of Abangwa, comprising 24 communities in the Bar North and the Bar South Council areas of the state. I mean, the reason is because they are vowing to resist the governor, Dr. Alex Otis' proposed appointment of a non-indigene as the mayor of Aba. Stay with us. We'll be back.
Experience the smooth and strong feeling that consistently surpasses expectation. Leading the way in high-performance lubricants, Master Supermoto Oil is as durable as titanium. Experience the smooth and strong feeling that consistently surpasses expectation. Leading the way in high-performance lubricants, Master Supermoto Oil is as durable as titanium.
Still live on the frequency. And our guest is still here, the Interpol Systems Consultant and Security Expert. Now let's look at this story, and then we get to have your reaction on the phone lines this morning. The indigenous people of Abangwa, comprising 24 communities in the Bar North and the Bar South Council areas of the state, have vowed to resist Governor Alex Otis' proposed appointment of a non-indigene as the mayor of Aba. Or the governor, you recall, during an event at the Aba Sports Club, disclosed that he will appoint billionaires like Ide John Odeagbala as the mayor of Aba and Chief David Ogba Bodex as the mayor of Ohavia, amongst others. This hasn't gone down well with the said group, as in the communication at the end of a meeting, signed by Mr. Ogechukwu Ogbona and Engineer Greg Obina, as well as Mr. Chintwa Mwagba. The forum urged the governor to give the indigents their deserved respect. Quite a long statement. I'm sure you might have seen the statement, sir. What do you make of it?
Not just the own statement, Mr. C. I was also privileged to watch the video clip of the governor, Alexoti, saying that he will use billionaires and generals as TC chairman. I also read very clearly the statement of the 24 communities that call themselves Abba Law Housing and Abba Law Housing. And we have a very clear understanding, Mr. C, of what the rules and regulations and how things ought to be done and done within the ambit of the provisions of our laws. Mr. C, you know, the last time I was here in the open parliament, I said that the use of billionaires and generals is a very welcome idea, Mr. C. For the billionaires, especially those who made their monies legitimately, they will bring to bear the great experiences they will have in the area of businesses. If you treat local government like a business, you see there will be progress, enormous progress. If you are going to use the experience of a general in a local government, Mr. C, the security apparatus will be effectively and so much expanded, in which it becomes a great idea for that local government. So if you ask me, Mr. C, the use of billionaires and generals is a good thing, it's acceptable, it's encouraging. In fact, that is exactly what we should be expecting in local government administrations. But Mr. C, there are two things here. Number one, from the government side of it. Number one, you cannot call local government chairman mayors legally within the ambit of the law. The Constitution provides that they should be called chairman of local government. We don't have mayoral seats in Nigeria. If you want to have mayoral seats in Nigeria, you must have to change the Constitution. So when you hear people say they are going to court, they know that when they go to court, they win. Because if you call anybody who's supposed to be a local government chairman and you change unilaterally, if you change his designation to be mayor, you are breaking the law. And I don't think the state intends to break the law. Secondly, these billionaires and generals, why can't they go to the polls and be elected? Why must we appoint them? Why must we say we are appointing them as chairman when it is in variance where it is prohibited by law? The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria prohibits the appointment of EC chairman. All chairmen of local governments, according to provisions of Article 7 of the Constitution, says they must be elected chairmen. They must be elected. So from the side of government must have to learn to obey the rules and regulations of our laws.
Does it change anything? Does it change anything, sir, if the government puts up the argument that, hey, come on, because I was part of a brief media pally with the governor sometime recently. I put up that question to the governor and he said, hey, come on, would be appointing TC chairman first off, because we are a new government, and then when we're settled, we can come up with the local government elections. Does that make sense?
Well, if the government decides to appoint TC chairman, they are violating the law. That's what I'm saying, Mr. C. I'm not saying they can't do that. They can do it. But that is in violation of the law. And when you violate the law, you are not going to equity with clean hands. Especially, Mr. C. Don't forget that not too long ago, what I mean by we is my humble self and the governor electorate, we were in opposition. And we criticized and condemned appointment of chairman of local governments other than elections. And we insisted that local government chairman must be elected in accordance to the provisions of the law. If we now go into government and start breaking that same provisions we condemned, where stand our honesty and fair play? Mr. C, that is why people are saying, go to equity, but do so with clean hands. The government have started very well. The government of electricity have started marvelously very well. If they continue the way they have started, they will end up with massive praises and they will change the trajectory of the problems we have always had in this land. Let me give you another information, Mr. C. The communities cited, I think the Abia State local government transition edit of 2002. That's what they cited, if I remember very clearly. Those laws are inferior to the constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It's a very inferior law. It's a local government edit. It cannot be cited when we have specific provisions of the constitution. Somebody like Ide John Udabara, how dare you say that he's not a citizen of Aba? A man who all his life have spent all his wealth in developing Aba, setting up industries. A man who is what the constitution provides is that for you to contest election in an area, you must be a resident. And he overqualifies. As well as that process of selecting them be done legitimately. John Dabara is eminently qualified.